Hello all you wonderful people and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to have our first episode of a series where I teach you guys how to build a chill song from scratch. Now the first episode is going to surround everything that you need to do to make a main idea for your song. And the reason that I am starting there in my first episode is I believe that the main idea is where you should start. And the reason that is because that I believe that every single part of your song, the intro, the outro, and like the breakdown, everything should either support or resolve from your main idea. Now, for people who, for instance, start at an intro, the whole point of an introduction is to introduce something. But if you don't even fully know what your main idea is, then you're going to be limited having to write it now because it's going to have to be based off your intro. Not saying you can't do it, and some people kind of already know what they want to do, so it's easier for them. But for the most part, when I go into a song and I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing, I start with the main idea. Now, to get started, we are going to go ahead and I have my BPM on 150, just because I wanted to do. I'm going to go and open up my Lounge Lizard, and I start with chords. Some people start with drums, some people start with all sorts of different things. I like to try and find a good chord progression and build off that. So I'm gonna go ahead and map out some chords real quick, and you're gonna see me zoom along on that. Alright, so we have our chord progression, which I'll play through right now. So a couple things that I want to point out about the chord progression. One, using the Lounge Lizard, I like to start around like maybe 48 to 52 in velocity, percentage in velocity, because compared to this timbre, this just sounds a lot warmer. Second thing I'd like to point out is that my chord changes, for the most part, are syncopated. And what that means is that we have on the upbeat, so 1 E and 2. So we have this downbeat, 1 and 2 and. So the chord change is on the upbeat, and that allows kind of more flow when you're going through your beat, which is I recommend doing through it. So if you have like a chord progression that's kind of just every chord is on the downbeat, I recommend going through and changing it up to see if it doesn't sound better with syncopated chord progression. Now the next thing we're gonna do is add some strum. So we're just gonna select everything, go up to Tools, click Strum, and it might not be checked for you already, but I recommend checking Preserve End, because if you don't, see how everything kind of moves on to the next part, but if you click Preserve End, it'll keep it the length that you want it to. And we're just gonna go ahead and put it on about 6, and what that does is it adds a nice little strum to it. Alright, so after that, we're gonna go ahead and just quickly rename it, Roads 1, and then just hit Control L on the channel we want, and it's just gonna make it nice and clean for us. Next up, we're gonna add a sub bass, which I keep pretty simple. I just throw on a 3-osc. Let's grab our root notes right here, throw it in there. And the thing with sub bass is that you can use, let's turn off everything, just something like a saw wave. We take the saw wave and we just route it through to, let's rename it sub bass 1. Do that. And then all we do is throw on our EQ. And then I like maybe about 40 hertz. We can go down to 35 if we really want that sub. And then maybe about 160 depending on how much character we want from the sub. And we just then go in and make sure that our time the sub is in matches that sounds good. So after that, I just crank it up in volume a little bit, and I mix pretty low. I would like to throw a limiter on just to make sure that all my notes, let's make it down. Just make sure that they're all kind of the same volume when they hit, because sometimes sub can fluctuate quite a bit based off what frequency is playing. Next thing we're gonna do is add a melody, and just like the sub bass, I like to keep it super simple. And let's go ahead and just add on a serum, and let's go ahead and just put it on just for start, basic shapes, and then we're gonna just knock this down, turn it up, and make it about even. Maybe turn this up just a little bit so there's not so much clicking. And then let's just map out the first few notes of what we want to do. Now, at this point, I love in my melodies, I love doing little grace notes. So if we like come in here real quick and make this like 4-beat, we could do like that, and let's go ahead, I can play around with the melody a little bit. Maybe instead of having this upper note, I just want and then we can also turn down the melody a little bit just because it's a little bit too loud. There we go. Now I'm gonna go ahead and write out more of the melody, so let's go ahead and zoom through that real quick. All right, so we have our melody. I went in and increased the decay a little bit too when you weren't looking, just to make sure that the notes match up with the chords decay. So now that that's done, what I'm going to do is mix up the notes of my piano to kind of complement the melody a little bit more. So let's go ahead and zoom through that real quick. All right, that took a lot more work than I thought it was going to. So let's go ahead and play the changes we made. Added a little thing here. Good. All right, it's a brand new day, guys. So we're gonna throw some effects on our melody, and then we're gonna get into drums. So let's go ahead and throw reverb 2 on there, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the wet up there. That sounds good. And then I want some delay. Sometimes I use 3, sometimes I use 2. I think I'm going to use 3 for this one. And I like to throw ping pong on there and make it go left to right, just a little bit on the top of the melody. So what I'm doing here is I'm allowing just feedback from a certain frequency range so that I don't get the entire thing and I just get certain notes. What this does, having delay and reverb, is fills up the space a bit. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and dive into our drums, and then we'll also find a cool vocal to put over it, because I think that a good vocal in the back will do wonders for this song. So let's go ahead and open up our splice, and I already kind of know the drums that I want to use personally, and we're gonna go ahead and go into here, and I super duper love this laxity kick. That is, let's see here. Yeah, This kick is dope. So let's throw that right there. I use the step sequencer for hi-hats and rhythms, but when it comes to kick and snare, I like to be able to kind of play around on my my playlist right here and move it how I want. So I do that on my playlist as opposed to my step sequencer. And then I really like the snare right here. And for the snare, I'm going to take it, and I'm a big fan of rim shots and anything of the like. So all right, so we got our beat right here. And just repeats right there. That's pretty good. Next thing we're gonna do is start to add a little bit of variance up to it. I like breath noises that I like to cut out the high frequencies. So we're gonna go ahead and go in and find a breath noise, which I have right here. HD breath noise. That's not, let's just do that. So we take this breath noise that's super loud. We're gonna do a couple things here. We're gonna allow it 1 to trail off. And then 2, we're gonna go ahead and put it here. So maybe we should name it breath 1, and then go here and go bam. So that's good. And then we're gonna go ahead and just cut off. And then we're gonna go ahead and cut the out. There we go. Next, I'm gonna stereo shape it to mono. I can pan it later, but as far as like the stereo separation, I want this particular sound to be kind of pushed together, and then I can pan it later if I want. Then a little bit of reverb. There we go. So just taking this breath noise and cutting out the higher breath frequencies, I get this just noise that I can layer in the back and give my beat a little bit more texture, which is what we're looking for. Next up, I want a little perk. We're gonna go ahead and go in, and I have this perk that I like. Oof. This is where we're gonna start editing a bit. We're gonna knock it up, because that's gonna put it on our frequency, and then I'm gonna start doing some swing with it, and then we can duplicate that over here and throw that on our beat. See how that sounds. Sounds really nice. Let's go ahead and get a hi-hat on there. I'm gonna go with this hi-hat. So we're gonna go ahead and throw that on here. Hi-hat 1. And I'm gonna map out a little hi-hat rhythm real quick. All right, so I have my hi-hat rhythm. It's just super simple, because I'm gonna throw a couple more things on there. We're gonna go ahead and just cut the out a little bit to make it more sharp, transient. Now you'll notice right here, I moved over the notes slightly. And the reason that is that if there's a snare or anything that it overrides, which it doesn't in this point, but later if there's any transients, they come through right here and the hi-hat still sounds on beat. So this is a technique I'm going to make a video about pretty soon, where you can make room for transients just by moving over certain sounds just a tiny bit, which is a really cool thing you can do to make your mix sound a little cleaner. So now that I've added the percussion and hi-hat, it's not only brought about more rhythm to the song, but it adds unique timbres to the song that contrast with the lower vibes of the Rhodes and the melody. So now that we've gotten those two things down, we're gonna go ahead and add a vocal line that I created quite a little bit ago, and it's to just kind of add some more flavor to the song and more layer, which is something we're gonna be doing a lot. And I'm really excited because I love this vocal. It's a splice sample right here that I put through Pitcher and Delay 2. So let's play this. A little loud, so we're going to turn it down a bit. So now that we have our vocal in, all that's kind of left to do is to just continue to layer. So I have this splice sample, which is just atmosphere, that we're going to tune to our song, the right key, and it's just going to add just fill up that space a little bit more and add some contrasting timbres to our Rhodes, which is really nice. Put Atmo 1 to here and just take off some of that low end. Right there. We want kind of like an icy crash, so let's go ahead and get, there's literally a crash that's called icy. And then we're going to send it through to another channel, crash 1, and then we have when you add more sounds, it gives you ideas to kind of move stuff around. So I had this extra snare over here, but now I'm going to move it here to make room for this new snare that I'm going to add, which is just going to do this cool. Next thing we're going to do is add a couple of slides to our sub. So we're going to come in here, just grab it, and I like to do this initial slide. There we go. That sounds really nice. We're gonna add a second slide right here to the end of this bass right here, and we're gonna do it by going up to the D right here, and then just right on back down right there. Yeah, just like that. Sounds nice. Added in this noise fall and rise sample, which kind of adds more. One of my personal favorite things to do is to add a light, repeating kind of melody clip over the whole song, which I'll show you how I do now. We're going to open up another instance of Lounge Lizard. We're going to name it Rhodes 2. I'm going to go to a new pattern. All right, I have this little melody. I'm going to go into my Lounge Lizard and just turn down the decay all the way to add this little pluckiness. And then I'm going to go in and tie it to a new channel. We're going to EQ it. We're going to add a ton of reverb. And then we're going to add a delay 2. And the reason I'm using the delay 2 this time is because I want it to be a lot simpler. I'm not going to mess with that. Then all we have left to add are just tiny little sweeps throughout the song, which I will grab. This is something I do want to show you guys specifically, is I go to this big pre-sweep snare. It's like a huge sound. Let me play it. So I take that giant sweep sound and then I just cut out all the big part. Then I just throw it all over the song to kind of add a little bit more drive behind my phases. So, all right, so now that this is done, let's go ahead and give our main idea a good listen. So you'll notice that in this video, I didn't do too much mixing in terms of EQing or leveling or worrying too much about the details, because I just wanted to get a foundation out. I didn't want to focus too much on the technicalities because I feel that can detract away from just getting ideas down. So we'll worry about that stuff later. As far as this goes, I think we're about done. We have a good foundation for a main idea. And if you've made it this far, that's pretty nutty because it's been a doozy of a video. In part 2 of this, I will be showing you how to make an intro, how to continue to build upon this main idea to make a part B or to change it up, and how to make a good outro. And then we will make a third part to the series where I finalize and show it, which might be less exciting. We'll see. But if you made it this far, I really appreciate you. Please leave a like and subscribe if you want more content to show up on your feed. And if you have any feedback, go ahead and leave a comment. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching.